What's up, guys? Welcome back to Let's Play Bioshock Infinite! Elizabeth is gonna sneak her way through here and start telling us about one of the game's new mechanics.
Let me scout ahead, see if there's some way to move forward.
Is that?
It's a tear, something I can bring into this world.
It's a freight hook. Well, that's convenient.
As I said, it's a form of wish fulfillment.
Do it now.
Alright, so tears, which Elizabeth has already established she can do, which we really have no idea what they are at this point. They just seem like they're strange, bizarre, temporal displacement, kind of. She can now actively use them in combat, and they're all contextual based on what encounter you're in.
And some cover. Try that one.
So, right there, before I was able to progress, the game gave me an option. And whichever option I was going to pick, I was going to drop down off that freight hook because only one tear can exist in the environment at one time. So I picked the machine gun turret there because that was the one I wanted to go for right now. You can toggle between each tear at any point in time if you have a good line of sight on it, but you can only have one in this current world at one time. So I chose that one and I dropped down so I can engage these guys with the sniper rifle. Tears are used in combat now, like I said. You only have what's in front of you at your disposal, but the fact that the unknown nature of them is still everything is so bizarre about them means that this is not this doesn't seem like a strange thing that she can't just pull anything out of nowhere, because we really don't know how these work. So it's not actually distracting, the fact that the game only lets you pick seemingly arbitrary things, because just the nature of what they are, and it doesn't make it seem like you know, we'd have limitless potential with this, and yet she chooses to bring in kind of stupid things. It actually, and it is explained later in the game what they are and what they do, and why she can only get certain things. In the meantime, though, we had a new enemy type that I believe was just introduced here. It's a guy with a rocket launcher who's commonly referred to as a beast. And I did take him out, although those guys have an obnoxious amount of health, and although I was able to take him out quite easily, higher tier versions of these guys often have just ridiculous amounts of health, and I highly advise taking an alternate method of dealing with them, because the amount of ammo it takes to take them out is just simply not worth it. And you can easily dispatch them with some certain vigor combinations later in the game, and I'll explain them whenever they're available and relevant. We have our, well, like I said, one of my favorite setups right here, but the nature of these encounters right here does mean that we're going to be limited on the amount of times that Elizabeth can chuck ammo at us. So I want to be very cautious here. I used that rocket launcher on that turret that was over here, which actually would have been nice to use my advantage later on if I could, but it was just simply in the way, and I can't have something permanently possessed for too long. There's a tear you can bring in right there that's a vending machine. So now, pretty much all the game mechanics have been established. Like, now that we have tears, that's going to greatly impact a lot of encounters, and I'm going to be using them, because it costs nothing to use them. I mean, if it's there, use it, of course, and a lot of times you'll have a batch of medical kits, like in this area, that you can bring in that's really going to save your life. So you may, when you first walk into an area, you may want to analyze every tear that's in the room to see what you have access to. Now right here, I want to make sure I'm really set and ready to go for this encounter, because this is a pretty tough fight. So there's a gun automaton over there, which is, you know, your standard turret. I'm going to bring that one in as soon as the enemy appears. I'm just waiting for the right moment. And that, essentially, it's... Oh, we're going to be up against a new enemy type here. We're going to be up against the Motorized Patriot, which is a very common heavy enemy we're going to be fighting in this game. These guys are very tough. And the Motorized Patriots essentially run on gears and machinery, and they come charging at us with this peppermill crank gun they have, which is essentially a minigun in this game. They're very powerful and they're very aggressive, and the way they charge at you is very dangerous. So I'm going to try to hide around corners here. I managed to blow his head completely off. This machine gun turret is normally just there to add another target for the Patriot as opposed to yourself. But he actually has done a fair amount of damage here, and the turret is still alive. I put a Devil's Kiss trap as soon as he came into the room here, and the rocket launcher combined with one of the gear that I have that chains explosions together like that. I think it's I can't remember which one it was. Is very good against him. So we managed to take him down without a hitch. Ironically, the first time I played on 1999 mode, I actually managed to get to this point without dying. I had not died the entire run through 1999 mode. My first time through the game. This is the first enemy that killed me. Was the first motorized Patriot.
Just give us what we came for.
And usually they drop pretty sparse loot. Later in the game, they'll drop some better loot. But they do drop their peppermill crank gun, which we can use in this game. You know, it's not one of those heavy weapons that you just can't pick up. We can use it, and I will be demonstrating it. It's actually not that great. It's one of my... I really don't recommend it for a lot of encounters, but it's really fun to use, and I will be demonstrating it. Alright, let's get that shock jockey now.
The whole place is ransacked.
Son of a...
There ain't no shock jockey here.
Slate must have taken them.
Doesn't look like it's here.
Look. Got it.
Fancy putting
Slate must have already gotten to it by now.
On it.
Occasionally, some tears that are things like that. Yeah, he's definitely been here. He's placed down some vigor traps with the shock jockey already. Those crystals there. We saw those earlier in the game when we first arrived here.
Comstock ships. He's coming for
A lot of tears, such as that can be destroyed, such as that automaton there, will eventually recharge and you can deploy them again. But certain things that are just static environmental pieces, like that freight hook there for the skyhook, obviously they would never be destroyed in the first place, so there's no problem there. So there's Slate. He's all spliced up and ready to go. He's got the shock jockey vigor, and he's hurling vigor traps at us.
Just give us the vigor. We don't need to do this. Here you go, boys. A soldier's death awaits.
Alright, we're going to have to fight 3 different waves of enemies he's going to throw at us, which is actually pretty tough encounters. And I really want to be sparing because I am very very short on ammo here. And I don't know how many times Elizabeth is going to be throwing ammo at me, so I really want to be careful not to use up all my sniper rifle ammo. I managed to take out 3 or 4 of his guys right off the bat here, which was pretty lucky. I think the places that he throws the vigor traps are random. You can tell that explosion was bigger than it normally would be there with the RPG. I kind of want to stay up here because he's often more... I feel like it's more likely for him to throw vigor traps in... Thanks, Elizabeth. You're the best. I feel like it's more likely for him to throw the vigor traps down there where they're more susceptible to hit you than he will up here. So having the high ground is a huge advantage in this encounter. But the terrors that we do have in this encounter include a shotgun down there, and obviously the same trilogy of freight hooks here that can be used to get up to that upper level and back down again, of course. There's also a thing of medkits there. Again, I can't revive that turret. This, if I didn't say so before, using that tear, we can bring in that dollar bill upgrade machine, which only has like 2 upgrades. I showed it briefly on screen there, but there's like negligible things that I would never buy. It's for, like the pistol and the machine gun. I'm not interested in those weapons anymore. We've moved on. If you're playing on a lower difficulty and you just wanted to max out those weapons for the sake of using them late game, you absolutely could. I mean, to go that route if you're interested, especially if you wanted to have like a challenge mode for yourself. You could do that, but I'm going to be showing off my favorite weapons for the sake of this run. I threw a vigor trap down there for the Devil's Kiss, but a fireman came out here in this second wave, so I definitely want to deal with him now. You may notice, I didn't really notice this my first time through the game, but there are a couple of devices in the environment that are triggered using the shock jockey. The same thing that we're trying to activate in order to get out of this place, the whole reason that we're here. So those things you see during the second wave here, Slate triggered that one down there with it. So he opened the door to more enemies coming out of that room over there. And we'll actually be going in that room first. Thanks, Elizabeth. You really can. You get the Leon S. Kennedy Award for fucking physics right up its ass. You managed to throw a sniper rifle right through a wall at me. But anyway, that's not the only time she'll be completely messing with physics. But we do appreciate it. This fireman is taking an obnoxious amount of damage to kill. He is still, as I said in one of the earlier encounters, he is still susceptible to rockets, despite the fact that he is immune to fire.
Is that all you can muster,
But yeah, we'll be going into that supply closet there to see to get some collectibles, and we'll be seeing just how ridiculous it is that an entire wave of enemies came out of that room. Like, what were they doing in there to begin with? Alright, Slate triggers this one up here now, which is going to be a big problem for us because more enemies are going to start coming out, but this time they're going to be coming out on our level. So we want to dismount and get ready. Oh god, it's a Patriot. We want to move. We want to get out of here. But luckily, well, strangely, I actually don't have enough salts to fully charge my Vigor Trap for the Devil's Kiss here, which is unfortunate. I'll have to do this carefully. But fortunately, like I said, the Patriot and all the other enemies will jump down to that lower encounter, assuming that you're there. So they will not stay up here, despite the fact that you're up here. Had he stayed up here, we would have been in a lot of trouble. I'm actually down to 1 rocket, so I may have to change strategies here in a second. Go back in there, get that crank gun, and use it against him. We actually do not really have the best means of dealing with the Patriots right now. When we get the Shock Jockey, we'll have a huge advantage against them. Think that they're very similar to fighting the Big Daddies, actually, in the previous Bioshock games, to fighting Rosie because of his range attacks. Just with how they resist damage and whatnot, but their patterns are just, for one, terrifying, and second of all, very unpredictable. Because for such a big enemy, you think it would take its sweet time and walk slowly towards you while firing away with its heavy weapon. These guys just charge right at you. In fact, he's already in this room with me, so I'm going to try to lure him into these Vigor Traps set by Slate earlier and see if they'll actually affect him. I don't think they will, but he's already pretty low on health. Let's trigger that gun automaton again. Ooh, come on! Alright. If I didn't say so before, there's a weak spot at the back of the motorized Patriot through a giant gear system that he has set up back there. And luckily, that's where you're able to get some critical hits on him. And I was able to do so with that turret there, getting him behind him like that and get some critical hits. If you're lucky at the beginning of the encounter with a lot of motorized Patriots, you can get some quick, cheap shots in on them with the sniper rifle or whatever precision weapon you have, and deal with them that way. I think also the splash damage, if you were to shoot a rocket behind him, would be enough to cause a critical hit, but you can't exactly get like a quick kill on him with that or anything like that. There are ways to quick kill Patriots, but they're only in certain encounters, and I'll be explaining them when they are relevant. So in the meantime, I have this crank gun here, and I am eager to use it. If there's anything left to kill. There's not. Alright, so this is the room that an entire wave of enemies came out of, including a fireman. All came out of this room. Are you serious with this right now, game? Stupider things have happened, I suppose. I suppose we can attribute that to being a classic FPS trope, to a certain degree.
But my scout has seen him. Booker DeWitt is coming here to the hall. DeWitt. We called him the White Engine of Wounded Knee for all the grisly trophies he claimed. A man such as he might just grant us the peace we seek.
We did pretty good on that encounter overall. I mean, that was actually one of the more tricky encounters in this first half of the game on one of my test runs. Now, Slate's going to kind of cut us off here with more Vigor Traps, and he's going to send a wave of enemies at us. I'm going to throw a charged Bucking Bronco out there, which I normally don't do, but I just want to be able to launch these guys into my line of fire, and then say hello to my little friend! As you can see, this thing is, you know, your typical minigun. Does a lot of damage. Runs out of ammo faster than you can say, peppercorn, and just overall very ineffective in this game though, because you rarely ever get a second magazine for it, and the first magazine runs out so fast. But like I said, we did really good in that encounter because during test playing, that ended up being one of the trickier encounters, just from the standpoint of if you run out of ammo for your main 2 weapons in this ideal setup, you're kind of screwed. So I had to be careful there with this time, but I managed not to take forever to accomplish what I did, so... unfortunately, my attempt to demonstrate the crank gun means I'm out of ammo for it, so I'm just going to bring in this tear and grab a shotgun for it. The obnoxious part about a lot of those tears that have that barrel full of guns is a lot of times picking up ammo for the other ones in the barrel is like, it's very resistant, like it doesn't, it's just very special. It doesn't want to give you the other ammo. It's quite stubborn. I walked up to that machine gun there and thought it was a sniper rifle because I was looking at the magazine the wrong way. Alright, Slate. Are we finally done with this nonsense? Because we want to get out of here. Come on, old man.
You're not done here, soldier! Eat everything that's on your plate! Finish it!
We're given a choice here if we want to spare him or kill him. I'm going to spare his life. I'm feeling forgiving today. Nothing like a fistful of lightning now, is there?
You spared
Listen, Comstock's men will surely take him.
Do you ever get used to it? The killing.
Faster than you can imagine.
Alright, so now we finally have the shock jockey. Now, I did spare Slate's life there only for one scene later in the game. That's really all that it impacts. It's very similar to other characters. It's like saving Malik in Human Revolution, you know. You basically get one extra scene later if you save her or kill her or whatever. Right here, there's going to be some enemies coming up over this water area over here as we've traversed before. We're going to show off just how devastating the shock jockey can be. Holy crap, we just disintegrated them. That's more than the Electrobolt could ever do, and I'll be showing off what it can do in a normal encounter later on, but wow! That was totally worth all the effort. I could get that carbine there on the way back. I've saved that for a reason. I think during my test run I ended up picking up that carbine on the way back. So, but same rules apply as the previous Bioshock games. Shoots lightning. If there's an enemy in water, it does a critical hit. You can Vigor combo it too with the Murder of Crows, and you can, I don't think you can Vigor combo it with Bucking Bronco, but if I can demonstrate here, after you have electrically charged somebody and you cast Murder of Crows on them, the crows will catch the electricity and transfer it to other enemies. You combine that with the Storm gear, and you have a devastating combination of electricity that will stun pretty much every enemy in the encounter and make things a lot easier. The Shock Jockey is one of my favorite Vigors in the entire game. It also has a very low casting cost as well. So it's really good. It does the same thing as it did in previous Bioshocks where, or the same thing the Electrobolt did in the previous Bioshocks where it does do a lot more base damage than it did in the previous games, but it still has this paralysis effect of stunning, and it makes the enemies more susceptible to damage while they're under the effects of it. Way more so than Bucking Bronco does. And here's the machine I was talking about before. We'll zap that back to life and head on out of here.